19 years is a long time to get everything almost right. That's what I kept thinking while watching her from the driver's seat, parked across the street like some private investigator with nothing left to lose. It was a Tuesday. I remember because she always wore her navy blue pantsuit on Tuesdays. But today she wasn't wearing that. Today she was in a red blouse I hadn't seen before, the kind that dips just low enough to say things without a single word. It was the kind of blouse you wear when you want someone specific to notice. She told me she was at her sister's, helping her with some tax paperwork. I even offered to come. She laughed. Said I'd be bored out of my mind. Said I'd just get in the way. Said, don't worry about me, baby. Just handle dinner. But I wasn't stupid. Not anymore. It started with the necklace. That tiny gold chain she never wore before but now suddenly wore every day. She claimed she found it in an old drawer, said she forgot she even had it. But I've been through every drawer in our house. I built half of them with my bare hands. That necklace didn't come from any drawer. Then it was the smell. A cologne I didn't own, clinging to her jacket one night after she came back from work. She said she brushed against someone on the subway. We don't live anywhere near a subway. We haven't used public transportation in years. She said it so smoothly, like she'd practiced. I didn't confront her then. No raised voices, no accusations. I wanted truth, not noise. So I waited. Tracked her phone location quietly. Nothing aggressive, I just mirrored the family account to my own. She never noticed. Or maybe she did and didn't care. That was worse. So here I was outside a dim-lit corner building that didn't look like any tax office I'd ever seen. It looked like a hotel. Because it was a hotel. I sat in that car for 2 hours waiting to see if she'd come out. And she did. At 9:42 p.m. Alone at first. Fixing her hair in the reflection of the glass. Then he followed. Tall. Confident. The kind of man who doesn't check over his shoulder because he assumes no one would dare look twice. He didn't touch her. Not in public. But their silence told stories. And she was smiling. Not the smile she gave me. This one had secrets. She walked ahead of him like they'd done this before. She didn't even glance around. She wasn't worried about being seen. Not by strangers. Not by me. That hit me harder than anything else. How comfortable she was in betrayal. Like love was a game she'd already won. And now she was just playing in the bonus round. I didn't follow her. I didn't drive home. I didn't cry. I sat there for another 20 minutes just staring at the space she'd left behind. The sidewalk. The curb. The truth. I didn't feel anger then. Not yet. Just silence. The kind that buzzes like static in your ears when everything else goes dead. When I did drive off, I didn't go home. I went to my brother's. Told him I needed to crash for the night. I didn't explain. Couldn't. Not yet. But something had started inside me. A slow burn. Not rage. Not the screaming, reckless kind. This was cleaner. Sharper. Like a line had been drawn in my chest. And everything on one side of it was now a lie. I wasn't going to ask her why. I wasn't going to beg for honesty. No. I was going to wait. Watch. Let her dig the grave a little deeper. Because what she didn't know was that I was already preparing the shovel. And the next time we spoke, I wouldn't be the man she thought she'd broken. The morning after the hotel stakeout, she walked into the kitchen like it was any other day. Coffee in one hand, scrolling her phone with the other. She smiled at me, casual, even affectionate. As if the night before hadn't happened. As if she hadn't just kissed another man while I sat in my car breathing in every second of her lie. "Morning, babe," she said. Her voice was light, breezy. The kind of voice you use when you're sure your hands are clean. I watched her pour almond milk into her cup like she hadn't just walked out of a hotel lobby 13 hours ago. I said nothing. She thought she still had control. That I was still in the dark. That's what made her careless. I let her believe it. The plan was already in motion. I spent the day working like I normally do. I own a small home renovation business and I called in 2 of my most trusted guys, not for a job, but for a favor. One of them, Marcus, is ex-cybersecurity. The kind of guy who doesn't just know how to check a phone, but how to extract a digital soul. He owed me for keeping his DUI quiet a couple years back, and he paid that debt with interest. He took her iCloud. Quietly. Fully. I didn't even have to touch her phone. Within hours, I had every deleted message, call log, location ping, and more importantly, the synced gallery she thought was private. There were pictures. Not explicit, but intimate. A hotel receipt screenshot. A blurry mirror selfie with her necklace slightly pulled to the side. A message thread under a contact saved as Dr. Green that was definitely not about dental appointments. There was one message that stood out. I wish I could wake up next to you every day. He doesn't even notice when I'm gone. She was wrong. I noticed everything. That night, I came home earlier than usual. She was on the couch, laptop open, laughing at some Netflix show I'd never seen her watch before. Something Shed picked up just for him, probably. I walked over, kissed the top of her head, and asked what she wanted for dinner. She looked up at me, surprised, like the sudden affection caught her off guard. Thai, she said, testing the waters. Perfect, I said, already dialing the place. She thought she was winning. Over the next 3 days, I played the role. Loving. Distracted. Slightly busy, but never distant. She leaned into it. She thought the affair made her powerful. Like she was outsmarting me. Writing her own version of our life while I read from the old script. But every word, every movement, every lie she told, I recorded. I kept everything. Dates. Times. Screenshots, voice memos. She left her laptop open one morning, and I installed a screen recorder. 20 minutes later, I had live access to everything she typed. That's how I found out he was married too, and that they weren't just fooling around, they were planning to leave us. A week-long vacation was already booked 2 months from now. Flights, hotel, car rental. She'd even started moving money. Small amounts transferred to a separate account under her maiden name. She was going to disappear. Quietly. Cleanly. With my wife, my money, and 19 years of my life boxed up like leftovers. But she made one mistake. One that would crack the entire thing wide open. She left a handwritten note in her coat pocket, the same coat she threw over the chair that morning before rushing out to meet her friend Amber for brunch. The note was folded and it smelled like her perfume. It wasn't a love letter. It was a list. A checklist. Call divorce lawyer, wait until June, talk to accountant joint savings, pack small suitcase to leave at his place, closet space. Figure out what to say to kids. Maybe therapy. Delete texts from last weekend before he gets suspicious. She was planning her exit like a military operation. And the worst part? She didn't just want to leave. She wanted to erase me. So I smiled when she came home. I made dinner. I asked how Amber was. I complimented her hair. She smiled back, warm and smug. But inside me, something shifted. This wasn't going to be a messy screamfest. This wasn't going to be begging or weeping or gaslighting accusations tossed across the living room. This was going to be exact. I was going to let her walk all the way to the edge, and then I was going to pull the floor out from under her. She thought she was watching me unravel. But I was watching her build the trap she was going to fall into step by careful step. Saturday arrived colder than usual. Not the weather, the air between us. But she didn't feel it. Or pretended not to. She hummed as she brushed her hair in the hallway mirror. She was getting ready for another girls' day. She wore a soft pink sweater, the one she knows I always compliment. Lip gloss. Perfume. The same one from the hotel night. I watched her from the kitchen. I had brewed coffee, set out toast, even folded the newspaper by her seat, a domestic illusion so flawless it would have fooled God himself. She sat down, thanked me, kissed my cheek like a routine reflex. She was almost too confident now. It was like watching an actress play her final scene, believing the audience is still in love with her character. Then I said, "Can I ask you something before you head out?" She blinked. Of course. I pulled my phone from my pocket, placed its screen up on the table between us. The screen was black, but she saw her reflection in it. And for a split second, her eyes twitched just slightly. "What would you do?" I asked. "If I told you I knew everything?" She tilted her head, pretending confusion. "Everything about what?" She played the innocent card too fast. Bad choice. I didn't answer. I just tapped the screen. A folder opened, time-stamped photos, message logs, location records. I scrolled through them slowly. She watched, her face stiffening with every swipe. Then I turned the phone off, looked at her. Not furious, not sad, just surgical. "You've got 3 seconds to tell me something real," I said, "or this entire conversation becomes a courtroom transcript." Her lips parted like she was about to speak, but no sound came out. I saw it then, not guilt, not remorse, just pure calculation. She set her coffee cup down, carefully, deliberately, then leaned back and folded her arms. "So what?" she said. Not "I'm sorry," not "it's not what you think," not even a weak denial. Just that. "So what?" My stomach went hollow. Not because I was surprised, but because I wasn't. I stood, not because I needed to loom or intimidate, but because I didn't want to be eye level with someone who could bury 19 years in 5 seconds and not flinch. "You lied to me. You lied to our kids. You turned our whole life into some kind of side gig while you played house with." She cut me off calmly. "Don't make this dramatic. It's been over for a long time. You just didn't want to see it." Her tone was flat, condescending, like I was the embarrassing husband who couldn't keep up with her evolution. Then she added something that scraped the last layer of skin from the inside of my chest. "You should thank me for not telling you sooner. I was trying to protect your ego." Protect my ego? Like the betrayal was a gift. I stepped closer, quiet, focused. "You humiliated me," I said. "You didn't just cheat. You dismantled everything I thought was real, piece by piece, and you enjoyed it." Her expression didn't change. In fact, she smiled. That smile did something permanent to me. "You don't know how to lose, do you?" she asked. And there it was, her tell. She thought I was still trying to win her back, that this was all about heartbreak and bruised pride. I leaned down just enough to say it low, clear. "I'm not here to lose. I'm here to end this my way." Then I turned and walked upstairs. I heard her laugh, a single, sharp breath. She thought I was bluffing, that I'd return in 5 minutes, hands shaking, voice breaking, that I'd beg for closure, for honesty, for whatever scraps she had left to throw me. But instead, I came down with a small manila envelope. I dropped it on the table in front of her and walked back to the door. "What is this?" she asked. "Your timeline. I figured you'd need it, for when the lawyers ask when everything started unraveling." Her hand hovered over the envelope. She didn't open it. She didn't need to. She knew what was inside. Proof. Dates. Names. All the pieces of the puzzle she thought she had carefully scattered. "You're not going to scream?" she asked. I opened the door. "No," I said. "That's your thing." And I left. Not the house, just the kitchen. The silence that followed wasn't mine to carry anymore. She had no idea what was coming next. She didn't leave the kitchen for almost an hour. I heard the creak of her chair when she finally stood up, slow, uncertain. That envelope sat there like a grenade, unpinned, ticking. I knew she read every page. I made sure it hurt just enough. That night, she didn't try to talk. No attempt at apology, no angry justifications. She barely spoke to the kids, barely touched her plate. I sat across from her, passing the potatoes like we were still pretending to be a family, and she couldn't even meet my eyes. She wasn't quiet because of guilt, it was fear. Not fear of me, but of the narrative slipping out of her hands. She didn't expect me to be calm. She expected fire, yelling, thrown plates, doors slamming. That's the man she could discredit. That's the man she could point at and say, "See? He's unstable." That's why I left. Instead, I was methodical. Every conversation was documented. Every text from her was backed up. I forwarded every legal relevant file to my private attorney before she even suspected I had one. He specialized in infidelity divorces. "First meeting," he said, "most guys are too late." You're not. She started slipping up by day 3. Tiny things. She left her keys in the fridge. She burned toast. She sent a group message to the family chat she meant to send to him. That message changed everything. Still no clue. He's playing some long game but hasn't said the D word. Might still be salvageable if I push the right buttons. She unsent it 2 seconds later. Too late. Screenshotted. Forwarded. Logged. I didn't respond in the chat. I didn't need to. That message wasn't a mistake. It was insight. She was treating this like a negotiation, not an ending. And she still believed she had leverage. That's when I stopped playing defense. I called her sister. Now her sister, Brianna, and I had always been on cold terms. Not hostile, just distant. But I knew something she didn't. Amanda had used her name dozens of times to cover hotel visits. "I'm at Bree's," she'd say. Or "Bree and I are getting drinks." Lies wrapped in family. So I called Brianna, and I told her exactly where Amanda had been the last 3 Bree nights. Hotel names, times, screenshots. There was silence on the line. Then Brianna said, "You know, I always had a feeling, but I didn't know it was this bad." She offered me her support. Then she asked the question that sparked the next move. "Do you want me to talk to her?" I paused. "No," I said. "Let her feel the walls shift first." Because the next morning, Amanda found out her access to our joint savings account had been revoked. Legally. Quietly. She also discovered I'd withdrawn her name from the kids' school emergency contacts, and that the car title, the one in my name, was no longer available to her on the insurance. All legal. All traceable. All mine. She finally snapped. She cornered me in the hallway while I was getting ready for work. "Are you punishing me?" she asked. "Is this what you want? To make me beg?" I stared at her. Really looked at her. "No," I said. "I want you to understand. Every move you made, I watched it. Every word you twisted, I remember it. You didn't just cheat. You dismantled a life you said you believed in." Her lips trembled. For the first time, I saw her uncertain. Not the smug strategist anymore, just a woman who realized the game wasn't rigged in her favor. Then she tried something I didn't expect. She cried. Not a tear or two, full-on weeping. Shaking shoulders. Hands covering her face like the grief had just hit her in waves. But I'd seen her act before. I watched her fake joy for 2 years. I knew this performance too. "Don't," I said. "Not now." She sniffled. "You think I'm the villain. You think I did this on purpose." "No," I replied. "Villains at least stand by what they've done. You're not a villain. You're a coward. You lit the match and ran. That landed." She froze. I walked past her. Grabbed my coat. "My keys." "I'll be back late," I said. Try not to confuse the silence for forgiveness. I heard nothing in return. Not a word. The house felt different when I came back that night. Too quiet. Not peace, the tension kind of quiet. The kind that meant she was thinking. Plotting. Trying to figure out where the power had gone. She didn't know yet. But by then, I'd already filed. She was going to find out the hard way. She found out about the divorce filing on a Thursday afternoon. I didn't tell her myself. I didn't need to. My lawyer had the papers delivered straight to the house while I was at work. Signed, time-stamped, organized. When I got home, they were sitting unopened on the entryway table, next to her keys and sunglasses. Like they'd arrived alongside some random Amazon delivery. She didn't speak a word. She just sat on the couch, one leg tucked under the other, staring at the blank TV screen like it might light up and offer her a way out. Her phone was in her lap, untouched. That was rare. I could tell from the way her thumb twitched she hadn't even told him yet. She was still calculating the optics. I didn't ask her how she felt. I didn't sit down next to her. I walked past her into the kitchen, opened the fridge, grabbed a bottle of water, and left the cap on the counter just to see if she'd react. Nothing. But later that night, after the kids went to bed, she followed me into the garage. "You're really doing this?" she asked. I didn't answer. She stepped closer. "Do you know what this will do to them? To us? You're just walking away." I turned toward her then, looked her straight in the face. "No. You walked away the moment you started lying. I'm just turning around and facing the truth." And then she exploded. "You're a monster," she snapped. "You're destroying our family over a mistake. One mistake. After everything I've given you. After everything we've built. One mistake." I said. "You coordinated hotel bookings like they were dentist appointments. You lied to your sister. You rewrote our marriage in real time while looking me in the eye. That's not a mistake, that's a full-time job." She actually scoffed. Like I was the dramatic one. Like I had overreacted. "You know what your problem is?" she said. "You always needed everything to be perfect. You live in this little fantasy where loyalty is black and white, where people don't get bored, where marriages don't shift. Newsflash, people change." I walked toward her calm. ice in my veins. No. People reveal. She flinched. Just slightly. Enough. You changed, I continued. But not into someone new. You just stopped hiding who you really are. She opened her mouth, but I cut her off. I saw your list. Your exit strategy. You didn't just cheat. You planned a life without me while sleeping in my bed. And you think I'm the one destroying us. She tried a new tactic. Softness. I was lonely, she said. Voice low. Measured. You stopped noticing me. You were always tired. Always working. I felt invisible. I took that in. You were invisible because you were already gone. She blinked fast, eyes suddenly wide, like she wasn't expecting me to say it out loud. Don't pretend this started with my job, I added. I worked to keep us afloat while you were out erasing us one lie at a time. Then she said it. You still love me. That's why this is so hard. That line, that smug, desperate line. I stepped back. You've mistaken silence for softness. I loved a version of you that died without warning. I buried her the day I saw you walk out of that hotel. Her voice cracked for the first time. So that's it? You're just done. No, I said. I'm just getting started. The next morning, she got an email from my lawyer, documentation requesting full custody pending psychological review, citing emotional manipulation, betrayal, and potential instability during separation. She called me 8 times. I didn't answer. She left me a voicemail. Her voice was shaking. You're ruining me. Is that what you want? I listened, then deleted it. That day, I moved into a short-term rental down the street. Still close to the kids. Still close enough to see what else she would do now that the mask had slipped and the walls were closing in. She thought I was playing chess. But she forgot. I built the board.by week 2 word had started to spread. Not the ugly details, not yet, but the fracture was visible now. People noticed. Family chat went silent. The kids were quieter. Friends dropped into the periphery and didn't come back. She tried to contain it. She still smiled in public. Still posted selfies with the dog like nothing had changed. One of her captions actually said, rebuilding, recharging, remembering who I am. Like she was some kind of survivor emerging from rubble. She'd poured the gasoline over herself. But the real blow came when Brianna, her sister, stopped responding to her texts. See, what Amanda didn't know is that I had sent Brianna the full breakdown. Not just hotel receipts and call logs, but voice messages, one where Amanda laughed about how easy it was to keep things going with both of them. She said, I think I could string this out for another few months before he even notices. Brianna texted me back, you deserved better. I had no idea it was like this. And just like that, Amanda's circle started cracking. Then came the second blow, he ghosted her. The man from the hotel. The one she planned to leave me for. The man whose name I now knew and whose wife I had emailed 3 days prior. I didn't go nuclear. I sent her the facts. The dates. The screenshots. Just like I did with Amanda. And she replied with a single message, thank you for telling me. I had no idea. He's gone. And he was. Amanda called him 17 times in 2 days. I saw the calls. She still hadn't realized I had access to her synced data. He never picked up. He never texted back. The silence from him hit her harder than the papers ever did. She started losing sleep. I could see it on her face when I came to pick up the kids. Bags under her eyes. Fake energy. She tried to act unbothered when she handed over their backpacks, but the cracks were showing. Her voice trembled just enough. Her smile was the kind that ends too quickly. The kids, though? They were changing too. Our daughter, 16, asked to stay with me more often. Said it was quieter. Said she could focus better. I didn't pressure her. I just said, you're always welcome. Our son, 12, asked if his mom was okay. I didn't lie. I said, she's going through something. But we're here. You and me. Amanda noticed the shift. She felt it. She called me that night, her voice brittle. They're pulling away from me, she said. They're figuring things out, I replied. Just like I did. She paused, then tried one last card, desperation painted as clarity. I made a mistake, she said. I know I hurt you. But we can fix this. Maybe not the marriage, but the family. We can still protect what matters. I let that sit. Then I asked, What matters to you now? She didn't answer. Because the truth was ugly, and she couldn't say it out loud. Because what mattered was never the family. It was her image of herself. It was control. She didn't grieve the marriage. She grieved the power. That weekend, I sent her a final message regarding the divorce terms. No alimony, full custody with visitation rights, and joint responsibility for tuition. No chaos, no revenge, just fair, clear lines. She didn't respond, but I saw her read it 3 times. And then I watched her online activity switch, job search platforms, mental health articles, posts about starting over. She was spinning now, looking for a branch to grab on her way down. The people who once rallied around her, the brunch friends, the neighbors who adored her, they weren't commenting on her posts anymore. They weren't liking the selfies. Because now they knew. And people don't forget betrayal once it's named out loud. She used to be the woman everyone admired. Yeah? She was the story whispered behind closed doors, not because of the affair, but because of the sheer precision with which she destroyed her own life. And the best part? I hadn't raised my voice once. The message came in at 2:11 a.m. Not a call. A wall of text. A digital scream disguised as a last stand. You win. Happy now? I hope you're proud of yourself, burning everything down. You've poisoned the kids against me, turned my own sister into your little spy, and now you're sitting back acting like the victim. You're not innocent. You never were. You just know how to look cleaner when you destroy someone. I didn't respond. The next morning, I showed the message to my lawyer. We were days away from our preliminary court appearance, and I wanted a clean record, no fights, no mudslinging. Just facts. Let her drown herself with her own words. But she wasn't done. That weekend, she showed up at my rental unannounced. I opened the door to find her standing there, hair wet, no makeup, oversized hoodie, like she was trying to look broken, hoping sympathy might soften what guilt couldn't. I just want to talk, she said. I didn't let her in. We stood on the doorstep, cold morning air between us. She looked smaller than I remembered. Not physically, something deeper. She looked like someone who no longer recognized herself. What's left to talk about? I asked. She stepped forward, voice low, measured. You don't have to hate me. I don't, I said. I stopped feeling anything about you the day you smiled walking out of that hotel. That hit her. She bit her lip, blinking faster. I didn't plan for this, she said. I thought I could handle it. I thought She caught herself. I thought it was going somewhere. There it was. She thought he would catch her when she jumped. Instead, he vanished. And now she was flailing in midair with no landing. You threw away a family, I said, for someone who didn't even bother to answer your calls. She raised her voice then, the old version of her clawing back to the surface. Don't you dare act like you were some perfect husband. You were distant, cold. You were always working, always tired, never present. I nodded. I was building a life. You were building a fantasy. That shut her up. Then she did something that shocked even me. She dropped to the step, sat down, started crying, but not the crocodile tears from before. These were raw, ugly, helpless sobs. I lost everything, she whispered. I don't even know who I am anymore. I almost believed it. Almost. But then I remembered the checklist. The giggles behind locked bathroom doors. The way she looked at him when she thought I wasn't watching. You're not crying for me, I said. You're crying for the version of yourself that didn't make it out of this clean. She looked up furious now. So what do you want? You want me punished? Publicly destroyed? You want me crawling on my knees in court? No, I said. I want you to face what you did. And I want to protect our kids from ever believing this was normal. She stood then, wiping her face with the sleeve of her hoodie, trying to gather what pride she still had. You're a different man now, she said. I had to be, I replied. You killed the old one. She walked away after that. Didn't say goodbye. Just turned and disappeared down the street. I shut the door. Didn't watch her leave. Inside, on the table, was a folder, custody paperwork, already signed by me. Ready for her review. That night, I got another email from my lawyer. She'd finally hired her own attorney. And with that, she was done pretending this could be salvaged. Now it was war, but the kind she'd already lost before it began. The courtroom wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't like the shows where someone yells, "Objection," and storms out. It was cold, clinical, sterile. Truth there isn't shouted. It's recorded. She walked in first, flanked by her attorney. Some boutique family law specialist she probably found through a friend who once bragged about winning her divorce. Amanda looked polished. Not fragile this time. Composed. Structured. A face she practiced. I walked in behind my lawyer, nodding only to the judge. No eye contact with her. I didn't owe her even that. We were there to finalize temporary custody and present our respective affidavits, timelines, claims, supporting evidence. I had all of mine ready, organized, airtight. Amanda's lawyer spoke first. Polite, measured. Tried to spin the narrative toward emotional neglect, long-term disconnection. A marriage that had been unraveling for years. He referenced vague claims of me being absent, distracted, emotionally distant. The usual vague brushstrokes. Then it was our turn. My lawyer didn't dramatize. He laid out the timeline like a surgeon describing the stages of an infection. Step 1. Evidence of the affair, names, dates, hotel receipts. Step 2. Messages sent while the children were home, proving she was prioritizing the relationship during family time. Step 3. The checklist. The one she left in her coat pocket. And then the message she accidentally sent to the family chat. The one that said, "Might still be salvageable if I push the right buttons." That line alone changed the temperature of the room. Amanda's face went stiff. Her jaw tightened. She didn't speak. Couldn't. The judge listened. Took notes. Then asked one question, "Mrs., is there any part of your husband's statement you dispute with evidence of your own?" Amanda looked to her attorney. He paused. Whispered something. Then she nodded. "I don't dispute the timeline," she said. Silence. Not just because she admitted it, but because of how easily she did. Like she'd finally realized the air was gone and fighting for more would only make the drowning worse. The judge moved on. When it came time to discuss custody, Amanda tried one last swing. Claimed she was being alienated from her children, that I was weaponizing their affection. But my lawyer calmly presented the signed statements from both kids, neutral, respectful, but clear. They felt safe, stable, and supported in my care. The judge read them both out loud. Amanda's eyes stayed locked on the table the entire time. After a brief recess, the judge returned with the interim ruling. Primary custody granted to me. Visitation rights granted to her on alternating weekends pending psychological review and therapy engagement. Financial orders split clean, no alimony, each party responsible for their own legal fees. And then, in the smallest, coldest sentence of the day, the judge said, "This is not about punishment. This is about consequence." Amanda didn't cry. Not there. But as I walked past her to leave the courtroom, I saw her grip the edge of the bench. Tight. Like if she let go, she might unravel in front of everyone. And maybe she would have if there was still anyone in that room who cared to help her hold it together. Outside the courthouse, I didn't celebrate. There was no high five with my lawyer, no fist pump. Just a breath. A long, quiet breath. Justice doesn't feel like a win. It feels like balance returning after a long fall. She followed me into the parking lot a few minutes later. Called my name. I turned around once. She said, "I never thought you'd fight like this." I replied, "That's because you thought you were the only one capable of betrayal." She didn't answer. She just stood there, alone, holding her purse with both hands like it might anchor her to the ground. I drove away. No horn. No glance in the rear view. Just me heading home. And her finally standing in the wreckage she built 3 weeks after the hearing. The house was finally mine. She moved out quietly. No goodbye. No boxes labeled fragile or memories. Just a few hours with a moving van and a silence so loud the walls felt like they were listening. I didn't watch her leave. I took the kids out that day. Ice cream. A movie. Something light. Something unstained by her. When we got home, her side of the closet was empty, and her scent was finally gone from the sheets. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt free, And freedom is a strange, uncomfortable thing after so many years of chains disguised as routine. The first night alone in the quiet, I didn't cry. I didn't drink. I sat on the floor in the living room and looked at a wedding photo I hadn't had the heart to take down. It sat on the mantel, untouched, like a leftover from another lifetime. In it, she was smiling so brightly. I couldn't help but wonder how early the mask had formed. How long before the lies came dressed in vows? I left the photo there. Not because I missed her, but because I needed to remember the version of me that believed in her. He deserved that. The kids adapted faster than I expected. My daughter started painting again. She used to stop whenever her mom criticized the mess it made. Now she leaves paint cups out on the kitchen counter and laughs when the dog tries to sniff the brushes. My son sleeps better. No more tossing, no more questions about where mom went again. He just hugs me tighter now. It's different. There's weight behind it. I kept their routines steady. School, dinner, movie nights. Laughter crept back in like a thief afraid to be caught, slow, cautious, but real. Amanda tried reaching out. Not to me, to them. She sent long messages about finding herself, starting fresh, not giving up. I didn't interfere. I didn't poison her image further. I didn't need to. They saw the difference now. And what they saw was enough. Then, out of nowhere, she sent me a message. Just one. Do you ever wonder if I was just lost? It took me a full hour to decide whether to respond. And when I finally did, I wrote, no. Lost people ask for help. You build a road out of here with your own hands. She never replied. I started therapy. Not because I was falling apart, but because I didn't want to rebuild myself with the same cracks she left behind. The therapist asked me what I wanted to get out of our sessions. I said clarity, not peace. Just clarity. And I got it. I realized I spent years negotiating my own worth in that marriage. I accepted little cuts, quiet insults, cold shoulders, sarcastic dismissals, and called it compromise. I shrunk to keep the peace. I let her paint over me just so we'd look like a happy portrait from the outside. But now, I breathe deeper. The silence in the house is mine. The space is mine. My thoughts aren't filtered through her moods anymore. There's no more waiting for her to come home late. No more excuses to explain. No more lies to pretend away. Just me. Standing. Unashamed of how much I gave. And no longer afraid of who I am without her. The thing no one tells you about betrayal is that it doesn't stop at heartbreak. It reconfigures you. It rewrites your internal compass. You start second-guessing even the purest moments from the past, wondering which ones were real and which were just performance under disguise. But eventually, you stop asking. Eventually, you stop needing to know why someone lit the fire and start appreciating that you walked out of it alive. I don't think about Amanda every day anymore. When I do, it's not in anger. It's an observation, like watching a collapsed building from a distance. There was once a home there. Now it's just ruins. And that's okay. Some places aren't meant to be rebuilt. They're meant to be remembered so we don't walk into the same walls again. The kids have adjusted. My daughter calls me her anchor. My son said I'm his favorite safe place. Those words broke me more than anything Amanda ever said, because they weren't damage control. They were healing. Real, slow, earned healing. I go for long walks now. I cook more. I sleep better. I laugh without checking who's watching. I wear clothes Amanda once called unflattering, and wear them proudly. I no longer care what version of me she approved of. That version was curated to please someone who never loved me for the truth of who I was. And I've learned to stop apologizing for being genuine. 19 years of love turned into lies. Trust betrayed. Dreams destroyed in a heartbeat. She didn't just cheat. She humiliated me. Her eyes held no regret, only cold contempt. Do I break under the weight of her betrayal, or rise to reclaim what she tried to take? I choose justice, not silence. I choose presence, not performance. I choose to live loudly in the life she tried to erase. And to any man reading this, stuck in the space between suspicion and proof, between heartache and revenge, between silence and truth, listen closely. You don't need her apology to heal. You don't need her remorse to move on. You need only the courage to see clearly, to act deliberately, and to walk away without looking back. Closure isn't something they give you. It's something you give yourself the moment you stop asking for answers from the person who wrote the questions and lies. I don't wear a ring anymore. But I do wear something better now, clarity, peace, and a spine made of stone. She tried to destroy me quietly. I survived loudly. And now? I'm building again. Not a home she can walk into. Not a version of me she'd recognize. Something better. Something only I own.